Alright, so if you've been kind of catching up with the Boruto manga, you're probably aware that Boruto chapter 61 just released, and it kind of brought about some very interesting topics, such as like chakra control, and some things that you probably would have expected to see earlier in Shippuden, but weren't really talked about too often. And there's also some very interesting stuff that happens towards the end of the chapter, involving Code and Kawaki, but before we jump straight into it, if you have not done so already, don't forget to hit that red button down below, comment what you think we're going to be seeing next, and let's jump straight into it. So the chapter kind of opens out with Boruto, Kawaki, and the squad kind of opening up some cards, and unfortunately they get a Shino card, which is a C rank, which I'm assuming is probably pretty bad, and they're kind of upset. And Kawaki kind of looks to the side, and we can see that there are some surveillance ninjas kind of watching them, because we knew this whole time that they're under constant surveillance, especially because of the fact that Boruto and Kawaki are being targeted, especially by Code. Previously was Ishiki, but now it's Code, and so they're still being kind of surveilled here by some ninjas, and they kind of joke around that if Code comes out of nowhere, that guy's not gonna be able to stop them, right? But obviously, Shigadai kind of points out that he's just kind of there to relay the information to Naruto and Sasuke, which are probably going to be the people who would end up fighting these types of foes, right? And they kind of bring about that, it's kind of like stressing them out, but you know, they're just some safety precautions. So the idea of a sensory net kind of comes up, which is the barrier that's protecting the village. Now, we've seen this before, and we've seen it briefly explained before, you know what I mean, when Pain infiltrated the Leaf. Obviously, that was many years ago, so I'm assuming the village has become more secure, and Shigadai kind of goes on to kind of explain exactly what it's looking like right now, right? So again, we know that it's a barrier that's around the village, and it automatically checks everyone coming in or out of Konoha, right? Shigadai also mentions that chakra are like fingerprints, and no two are identical. And then he says the net compresses the chakra against the database and decides if the individual is known or not. Obviously, we already knew most of this information already, and that's why Kashin Koji was already able to get into the Leaf. But the way he kind of words it is very interesting, that chakras are like fingerprints and no two are identical, which is very interesting and makes a lot of sense when we're comparing things of the past where people are talking about how things have similar chakra, or like a dark chakra, you know what I mean? But it is very interesting to note that that chakra are kind of like fingerprints, that every person's chakra is very different than everybody else's, which is also pretty interesting because we know that they're all connected. So how could they be so different if they're all connected? Stated by Kurama, I think, when Naruto was in the Baryon mode. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit too deep into this. And Inoji, and I believe that's his name, he mentions something very interesting that kind of catches Kawaki's attention. He mentions that the only way for somebody to be able to get into the village now undetected is if they're able to erase one's chakra nature. And that kind of really resonates with Kawaki, which we're going to see later in the chapter. But moving on after this, we move right on to Code's claw marks, which we now know that he can kind of move between them and kind of, you know, teleport to them. And we do know that they're everywhere, right? So we have some Hidden Leaf Shinobi kind of watching them at all times 24/7. And Sasuke kind of lands in just to kind of check it out. And he mentions that Code's probably not going to get out of this one. And it's just kind of like a hunch that he has. He's like, he doesn't have any real reasoning for determining why Code won't come out of this one, but he just says that if it was him, he'd pick a different one. And obviously, as we know from the past, Sasuke can probably put himself in the shoes of these antagonists, because at one point he was basically the main antagonist of the show, right? So they're asking him kind of like, well, what should we do if he's not going to come out of this one? And he says, you know, Naruto and Shikamaru told you guys to stay here, so just stay here and listen to them, right? So he leaves, and then we jump over to the Hokage's mansion. Shikamaru's on the top, kind of smoking, and Amado kind of comes out of nowhere, and he kind of starts talking to Shikamaru about Code. And it's kind of funny that he takes out a cigarette, and Shikamaru says that you shouldn't get carried away because smoking's prohibited there. And Amado's like, bruh. So they kind of talk about Kawaki for a little bit, and like parental love and whatever. Amado knows a little bit about that because we obviously know that he had a daughter at one point. But they don't really say anything interesting. The only things that really kind of caught my attention are Shikamaru just kind of roasting Amado. He says that his cigarette doesn't even taste good when he's around, you know what I mean? So kind of overall just going to show that Amado's a very sketchy dude, and everybody's kind of catching on. And obviously this is happening during the day. There's a little bit of a skip towards nighttime when we see Kawaki in the Naruto household, and he walks outside to throw the trash. And we see the same ninja that was there before, kind of, you know, giving them the 24/7 surveillance, and he's kind of reporting. We can see him reporting. This guy's looking like he's about to massacre his own village. But anyways, Kawaki jumps into a bush, then jumps back out and goes back inside. As we soon find out, Boruto points out that this is a shadow clone, and the real Kawaki actually escaped. And obviously, the sensory ninja didn't really see him, but he senses that his chakra is still inside. And Kawaki kind of jumps out of the bush and he kind of runs away. And Boruto notices this right away, but the sensory ninja obviously doesn't really notice, because it seems like Kawaki's chakra signature is still inside. and he saw Kawaki go back inside. But Boruto's thinking to himself about what they said today, and he realized that he was able to erase his chakra signature. Obviously, we know that on the side, Ida and Code are still kind of doing their own thing. Ida's using her Senrigan to kind of spy on them and see what they're doing. I have a video on that if you guys want to go check that out. But anyways, she's basically like a human security camera, just narrating everything to Code, everything that she sees. And they mentioned that he nullified his chakra signature, which is something that comes natural to Otsutsuki's, but he probably didn't even realize it yet. So with this information, knowing that Kawaki is not in his household, Code moves through one of his claw marks in the hidden leaf that is not being monitored, and he seems like he's going to be going after Code, right? The chapter ends off here shortly after, so we don't really get to see exactly what happens next, but it does appear that Code is in the hidden leaf and Kawaki is also not in the house, so it seems like he's going to go try to meet Code or something. But Boruto, being an Otsutsuki, or partially Otsutsuki, 80+%, he's able to sense where Kawaki is, and he might go see what Kawaki's kind of doing. Again, I don't really know what Kawaki's doing. I don't think they know what Kawaki's doing. It seems like he might try to negotiate with Code or kind of go see him or something. I'm not really sure, but it does look like Kawaki's in immediate danger right here. All the sensory ninjas and all the surveillance is not really working. They have no idea where he is at the moment. That's kind of where this chapter leaves off. Doesn't answer a whole lot of questions, not very much of an action chapter. We do know that it seems like Code's assault is going to come closer and closer. Honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I would like it to happen within the next couple of chapters, because it seems like Code has already moved through one of the claw marks into the hidden leaf, and if Boruto kind of tells Naruto, hey, this is where Kawaki is, and I kind of have a bad feeling, Naruto can get there and we could see a fight take place. Obviously, we know the limiters are still in place in Code's body, so he might not be as great of a fight as Jigen quite yet, but once he gets the limiters removed, obviously we know he's going to be a formidable foe. Again, there's not too many questions answered in this chapter. It's more of like one of those chapters that where we saw in early Shippuden, where they just did a bunch of like chakra explaining and kind of explaining like the chakra natures and that kind of thing. These are the kind of vibes that I'm getting from that. It's just kind of like an explanation chapter, a very moderate fluff chapter, but it looks like it's going to be building up something greater later on. Again, there's nothing crazy yet, but I am going to be releasing a video very shortly, kind of explaining my predictions for the next upcoming chapter, and a couple more talking about what if battles and stuff. I upload weekly, so if you guys like more videos, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.